about it for today. All right, the idea behind this today was to just try to set up and see if we could link a Git project to a GitHub repository. All right, but if you ran into any kind of problems, we will get them fixed. All right, so let's start up. So I'm going to now go over Chapter 3. Now, as I go over Chapter 3, what I'd like you to do is inside of Visual Studio Code, everybody can do this, even if you had problems. Everybody, please, open up Visual Studio Code and open up your index.html file, which is currently empty. Open that up inside of Visual Studio Code. Remember, if you look on the screen, please, there's two ways that you can do this. You can either, from here, you can right mouse click on here and choose Open with Code. And sometimes people tell me, I don't have that option, and I don't know why. You should, but I don't know why. I wasn't there when you did the install. I didn't watch every step you did. But unless you chose something, you're supposed to get that by default. But if you don't get that, then if you've got a Visual Studio icon, Visual Studio Code icon down here, this blue, I call it the blue bow tie, you can click that to open it up. And if you don't have that, you can click on your Windows feature search feature here, arrow down until you find Visual Studio Code. It is in alphabetic order. Mine, as you can see, is in a folder, so I have to click there, and then you can click on this. Is it too much to assume that everybody can get into Visual Studio Code? Any problems with that? All right, because I just gave you 3 different ways you can do it if you want to or need to. I'm going to right mouse click on the folder, and I'm going to choose Open with Code. All right, that brings this up. And again, it might have that welcome thing and stuff in there. I don't care about that. And I'm opening up my index.html. Now, I've got to remember how to do it. I should have checked during the break today. There is a way to get this out of here. I'm not that concerned with it right now, except it makes it a little harder for you to read. All right? There are a lot of customizations that you can do inside of here. Yesterday, if you remember, we added live server. We added the live server extension. There again are probably hundreds of extensions. I will tell you that sometimes what will happen when you bring up an extension is there will be 2 of them that have either the same name or almost the same name. Be real leery, because usually it tells how many downloads there are for each one. If you've got a downloads in the millions or hundreds of thousands, you can be pretty confident that it's working, because otherwise people wouldn't be downloading it. If you've got one that's got 8 downloads on it, I might be a little more leery of that one. All right, it may just be that it's a brand new tool and people don't even know about it yet. So there may be absolutely nothing wrong with it. All right, but there may be something wrong with it. Okay, if that happens, remember, when you install something, you can also uninstall it. Okay? All right. Now, I'm not going to do anything right here right now. In fact, let's do this, because we've done this before. Let's go to the beginning of our file here. Oops. And let's put in the exclamation point, which is our Emmet abbreviation, and hit Tab. So you've got this. All right? We're just going to do that. We're going to add some stuff in here today that's in Chapter 3 that we have not talked about yet. Everybody hear me? Yeah. And when we start, some of the stuff that we're going to add another meta tag or 2. We're also going to add a favicon. All right, we're going to create our own favicon, and then we're going to add that. Okay? All right. So that said, I'm jumping back into Chapter 3 right now. And as you can see, Chapter 3 is how to use HTML to structure a web page. All right? So there is literally, to my knowledge, there is no, repeat, no CSS in this chapter. The next chapter is all about CSS. So as we do this and you bring it up, you're like, that's just look really ugly, Jeff. It's really ugly. It's because it's really ugly. We're just concerned with content right now. All right? Tomorrow, we'll probably end up going into Chapter 4. How to use CSS to format the elements. All right, so I'm going to go right to the Chapter 3 here. And it's how to use HTML to structure a web page. So notice, much of the beginning material that's in here is the stuff in the head section. I'm just going to follow their lead. So we'll do that. Now, if you look up on the screen here, if you remember yesterday, I mentioned to you H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6 headings. I mentioned paragraphs. I don't mind going back and reviewing that stuff, but I don't want to dwell on stuff we've already talked about. All right? So we'll do that just a little bit. One of the really nice things about this book, what I like, you may end up liking it, you may end up disliking it. But at the end of most chapters, they've got something like this. It says a structured web page, and it shows you exactly the HTML they used. The reason I'm telling you that is sooner or later, we're going to have a test in here. And if you're like, oh my God, I just totally forgot everything in the world, that sometimes is a good place to go to at least start to get some help. All right? I mean, if that's the case, please don't do that. You know, I literally had someone do that last semester where they did virtually nothing for 3 hours and 50 minutes and then came up to me at the end of the class and said, I didn't understand what we were supposed to do. That's not very healthy for me or for you. All right? So let's get into it. So as you can see in here, first thing is how to code the head section. And they talk about the title element. Guess what? We've already talked about this. All right? And they mention how a browser can have a title and a favicon. We're going to put the favicon in just a minute. Don't worry about that. All right? We are going to literally put in this line of code into our head section in just a minute. I'll come back to it, so don't worry about typing it in right now. All right? That said, I'm going to go back into my Visual Studio Code. Remember that by default, which means unless told otherwise, the title right here is document. I don't like that title. So I'm going to put in here Travis Tritt, and then a pipe sign, which is right up above your Enter key, Shift, and then right up above your Enter key, Home. It's not that it has to be that, but this is Travis Tritt's web page, and it's the home page. That's why I put Travis space, Tritt space, pipe sign space, home. So when I run this, what I should see then up in the tab, no favicon yet, we're going to add that in a minute, but what I should see there is Travis Tritt pipe sign home. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Scroll up. Oh, you don't have to type that. Remember, just put in, get rid of everything you got on your screen. Just put in an exclamation point and hit the tab key. All right, so everybody has got the title changed, correct? Now, I've said this to you Monday, probably even again yesterday, but I'm saying it again. I'm going to show you a way to do something. And if you say, I've already done it and I don't do it like that, then do it your way. It's totally fine. All right? But I'm trying to show you things in what I consider the most straightforward way of doing them. All right, so this is what I want everybody to do. I'm going to minimize this, and in your browser window, I want you to go to Google Images, which is what? Images.google.com, I believe. So go to images.google.com. All right? So images.google.com and hit enter. And we're going to look for an image of Travis. So I'm going to put in here Travis Tritt. And I already did this yesterday, and I'll tell you the one I like because I thought he looked kind of cool in it, but you may or may not agree. You can pick out any one you want. All right, but I just started to look through them, and I said, oh, which one looks really kind of cool? All right, this is I think yesterday was a little smaller. I don't even see the one I used yesterday because he had sunglasses on. There it is. I like that one. Now, if you don't agree, don't use that one. Use any one of these you want. Now, just I'll take your question in a second. Just so you know, don't look, but please listen. Let's say this was a website. Angie was doing a website all about Angie Shelton. All right? She could take a picture of herself, okay, and save it, bring it, put it out on her machine, and make a favicon from that. So you can do that. You can make your own favicon of yourself if you want to do that. Yes? Okay. You can. Yeah, it should show there one. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is it's okay with you. For right now, don't even think of it. Okay, just continue on, and I'll look at it in the next part. Okay. All right. So again, you don't have to choose this one. This is the one I'm going to choose. And the way I'm going to choose this is I'm going to right mouse click on this image, and I'm going to choose Save Image As. So I right mouse clicked on the image. I'm choosing Save Image As. By default, it'll go someplace, but it doesn't matter. If I want to, I can. That's kind of cool. I can make it go into my images folder. That'd be a good place for it, wouldn't it? So I'll go to Images, and it's going to be called, I'm just going to call it tt.jpg. Again, what you call it isn't that important. Did you hear me? It's really and truly not that important. All right? But just so you're aware of this, there is a problem right now. We want our favicon to look like one of these up here. Everybody see where I got my mouse way in the up here? Problem is right now it looks like this. That's a problem. I don't want that up here because it's going to take up a lot of screen space. All right, so I want to take that and I want to make that into a favicon. And there are different sites, some of which are free for you to do that. If I can find it, there it is. This is the one that I have used. Let me go and bring it up in here so you can all see it. All right. Again, you really don't need the https://. You could put this line in. All right, Gabriel, you can put that line in. All right. I don't know. It may end up not even showing, but it shouldn't hurt anything to do that. We'll get that. Even if I have to copy it over to you and give it to you, that's fine. I don't mind doing that. As it says, this is a favicon generator. Okay? Now, don't download this. I already did. Well, you can. You don't have to. You can do all this online. I try to find tools that are A, free, and B, online. One of the things when they hired me in here, I told them is I think it's important in a program like this, you're at a little bit of a natural disadvantage as opposed to those people. They don't have to go out and buy computers. They have to buy a toolkit, but they don't have to buy computers. So I said, to me, it's very important that as much software as possible, ideally 100%, you don't have to pay for. All right? But if you're only going to use this to make this favicon, you don't have to do it. If you're going to use it once in a while, you don't have to download it. Now, if you look over here, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go down in just a second. So that shows me what it's going to look like. See that? All right. And I want to see, okay, let's see. It says here, drag and drop your file here to upload. Yours may look like this. Yours may look different because I've already done this once. So yours might look different. If yours does look different, when I brought this up yesterday, it had a couple boxes over here, and one said like ping, convert a ping file, and one said something else. If you get that, click in where it says ping file. How many people, I'm just asking, how many people have a screen that looks like mine? Anybody? Okay, some of you do. Most of you do. All right. So where it says drag and drop, well, what do I want to do here? Well, I'm going to click on it where it says drag and drop. I literally clicked in that box. And now I'm going to go over to Travis Tritt. And I'm going to go over to images. And I'm going to find my tt.jpg. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click Open. Like I said, it looks, boy, sometimes I think I shouldn't try doing things in advance because everything works fine. All right, let's see. I don't want to download the software. Yeah, see, it's doing downloads. I don't want it to download. Let me get rid of this and open it up again. All right. No, it's just the same. Drag and drop your file here. There. Open. Yeah, see, what I don't want us to do right here is I don't want us to download the software. All right. Free. Favicon. Generator. Of course, the best one, completely free. That's the one I chose. I'm going to try this one. See if it looks different. Let me run through everything, okay? Continue to download. I don't want to download it. Choose file. Okay, this is the kind of thing I want to see. So choose file. There it is. Click open. Create favicon. There it is. Now, create favicon. Okay, download the generated favicon. That's what I want to do. All right, so we'll run through all those steps together literally in just a second. Save link as. All right, and I'm going to go back into images, and I'm going to call this favicon dot. Make sure I call it exactly what they showed it in the book. I think it's favicon.ico. We're going to find out. Favicon.ico. All right. This second one appeared to work where the first one didn't. So go out to favicon-generator.org. Favicon-generator.org. All right. And when you do that, yours hopefully, once you go down a ways, maybe a third of the way, looks like this. Does everybody have that? Click on here where it says image. Yours will be empty right now. Click where it says image. Iterate or move your way over to your Travis Tritt images folder and find tt.jpg. Click on that and choose open. So click on that and choose open. That should fill that in here. See that? Then click where it says generate favicon. All right, and it's got a bunch of different stuff in here. Okay, and I want to explain a couple things that are in here. First of all, notice, because I haven't used this particular package before, but I can hopefully figure out what it is. As you can guess, these are the sizes, right? Okay, 32 by 32, you probably don't want it any bigger than that. That's 32 pixels by 32 pixels. 16 is going to be pretty small. 96 is 3 times that size. All right, so let's see. I'm going to do this. We're going to try this right now. Everybody please look on the screen here. I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to grab, let's see, it says, what's next? Include the following code in the head of your document. No. I just want this one line right here that says link, rel equal icon, type equal ping, size is 16 by 16, href is favicon 16 by 16 dot ping. Everybody see that? All right. So I'm going to literally copy that. I'm going to go back to here, not to there, to Visual Studio Code. And right underneath my title, I'm going to paste that line in. Boy, oh boy, we should turn off those headed help. So I just put this in. Link, rel equal icon, type equal image ping, etc., etc. All right. Now, I'm guessing right here, but I'm going to guess this ain't going to work. All right, but I'm going to check. So I'm going to do a Control-S, and I'm going to right mouse click on here, and I'm going to choose Open with Live Server. All right, and there's my Travis Tritt, but I don't have any icon. Okay, so what does that mean? Just explain to you exactly what that means. Let me get rid of this. Go back to here. Okay. The problem is that actually is the right code, but it says download the generated favicon. We didn't do that. Okay? So we're going to save it, but when we save it, if you want to use this exact line, when we save it, we'll give it this name. Favicon-16 times by 16 dot ping. If you decide, I don't like that, I just want to call it Travis, then you're going to have to change this line that we put in. Does that make sense to everyone? All right. So it says download the generated favicon. I'm downloading it. I have no idea where this one goes. There it is. All right. So there's all the stuff. It put it in my downloads folder. I want to grab this one that's, there should be hopefully one in here that says 16 by 16. There it is. See that? I'm going to right mouse click on this. I'm going to choose copy. I'm going to go over in my home directory or my desktop. I'm going to go into my Travis Tritt. So I'm in desktop. There's Travis Tritt. I'm going to go into images. And I'm going to paste that in that I just copied. And there it is. That's the same thing as what I have before, but it's way shrunk down. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. Now I'm going to go back into my live, not there, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back into my live server. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to again choose Open with Live Server. And I'm thinking that it actually is in here, but I got so many other darn things open that it's not showing. That is how you do it, though. All right. In fact, what's wrong with this? Somebody tell me. What's wrong? There is an error in this line. Somebody please tell me what the error is. That's correct. You have to say images / all right. Rel equal icon href equals images. Oh boy. So it's got to look like that. Now, if what I've said, if you think right now, you know, man, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this, and I'm really, really lost. I understand it. I do. The first time I ever took a computer class, well, that class was a joke, but the first real class that I took, the guy lectured. He didn't even give us a break. He talked for 4 hours, and he made me sound exciting. So he wasn't the most dynamic guy in the world. He got done and he goes, "No, for your next program, I'm going to give you something easy." And he spewed out all this stuff, and I didn't have a frickin' clue as to what any of it meant. None. And that was back in the days we didn't have the internet. So I went to the library and I went to the card catalog and started looking up stuff. And guess what? I did fine. All right? You will all do fine in here. The only way you won't is if you convince yourself, "I can't do this," and then you spend the next 16 weeks proving yourself right. Again, we had 2 of those people last semester. All right? So I'm again going to do a Control S to save. I'm again going to try to open this in Live Server. All right. Can you see this now, looking on the screen? There's my favicon. All right. So it will work. If for some reason yours didn't work, don't raise your hand now. But when we'll take a break in a bit, and when we do, just let me know. We'll get it to work. All right, let's jump back into the book. Like I said, what I'm trying to do in the past when I've done this, what I've done is I'll sit and lecture for about an hour. People will watch me lecture, but they're not interacting. And what I found is they're pretty bored. And I get it. So if you want to put in this exact line, you could do that too, but you'd have to change the name of the icon to favicon.ico. That's usually what it's called. All right, and you can go ahead and do that if you want to. A favicon is just, again, something like this. It goes to the left of the title. All right. You want to read more about it, you can read more about it right here. I'm not going to sit and read to you. Okay. In my machine, like I said, I've got way too much stuff open, so it's really, really acting slow. All right, the next thing that's in there is metadata. You may remember this from yesterday, you may not. But what I want you to understand is meta is data about data. Okay? And I want you to look on the screen, please. Here are 2 meta tags that we have not used before. We used the char set, but we didn't use the description and the keywords. These are used for what's called SEO. Does anybody remember what SEO stands for? Search Engine Optimization. So they're used by search engines like Google. The better you put a description in there and keywords, supposedly, the better the chance you have of getting a higher ranking. No one knows the exact formula, Google, Bing, Yahoo, etc., that any of those places use for how they rank pages. No one knows. Well, I suppose people who work there know. All right, but they're supposedly sworn to secrecy. Okay, but it's funny because I had created a website for a friend of mine, and it wasn't really very high on the list. And I called the company up and I asked him why, and he said, "Well, I checked your keywords with the keywords of the competitors, and they've got a lot in there you don't have." All right. So I changed mine, and yeah, it did improve. But the point is, those keywords were the ones that were written by the guy who I created the website for. I didn't want to go. I told him I'm not adding anything new without your permission. And I explained it to him. No, add it. So notice this is a website about San Joaquin Valley Town Hall. So the description is, and this should be under 100 characters typically. All right. That description quite often is what you're going to see in the actual search engine itself. When it gives you a listing of URLs, and then it's got a little description underneath it. All right. So a yearly lecture series, etc. You can read all that. And then keywords. San Joaquin would sure make sense. Town Hall would make sense. Since it's speakers, that would make sense. All right. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. And if you don't like the words I'm using, it's totally fine. Just go ahead and use your own. Sometimes This is one thing I don't like about these books. Sometimes it lets me copy stuff. Sometimes it just chokes on it. It doesn't let me copy. Looks like today's one of those days. Okay, I'll try it one more time. Yeah, I know, and I've asked them about it, and they're like, yeah, that's how you feel. That's not how most people feel who use the book. That's what they've told me. And again, I'm not going to sit and fight with anybody over anything. It's really not worth it. All right, let's do this. So, meta name equals description, content equal website dedicated, and you're going to see all this. You don't have to worry. To country music superstar Travis Tritt. That's plenty. All right. And that meta name equals keywords, content equals Travis Tritt, country music, I don't know, band. That's plenty. All right. So this is what I'm going to put in for my tags. All right. And you should try to see if you can type it all in on one line. I'm going to put it on a couple lines just so you can read it. All right. But put all this meta tag stuff on one line and put all that on another line. So let me make it a little bigger so you can read it. If you don't like what I put down, just put your own stuff in. It really won't matter. All right. So again, these are meta tags. This is designed to describe. So if that would ever get out there on the internet, that would be the description that you'd see in the search engine. Website dedicated to country music superstar, not start. Superstar Travis Tritt. All right. I probably should have more keywords, but I just wanted to keep it simple. When you're putting this in, I would put this in right underneath the meta tag you already have. Did you all hear me? If you don't, it's not going to hurt anything. But it would, to me at least, it just makes sense if you look up on the screen. You've already got a meta tag right here. So I would put it either above that meta tag or below that meta tag. You should try to keep your stuff in an organized type of manner. It just makes a lot more sense to do it that way. People always ask, do I have to? Well, you don't have to do anything. All right? But like I said, to me, it just makes sense to do that. And it looks a little funky. So this name is an attribute, description is the value. Name is an attribute, description is a value. Content is an attribute, there's the value. Content is an attribute, and there's the value. But the key thing is, one is the description, and one are the keywords. Have you ever heard the term, I'm asking this question, have you ever heard the term spidering a website? Anybody ever heard that? What happens, let's assume that I'm creating this website, that Travis has hired me and I'm creating the website. Now let's just suppose I'm finished. There's different stuff, and of course he's like, well, yeah, I want it on Google and I want it on Bing and I want it on Yahoo, but I'm really concerned with Google. There's different things that you have to fill out, like online forms, etc. But the point is, Google will eventually go through your entire website. Except, guess what? You can put in the equivalent of one of those get ignore files. If there's files you don't want them to go through, you can put them in there. All right. But it'll go through otherwise the whole site, and it'll say, Okay, does he have the words Travis Tritt in here? Is the word country in here? Is the word music in here? Is the word band in here? Because a lot of people go in and they put in loads of keywords, and they never ever use those keywords in their site. That goes against you. Now I want to give you an example. Again, some of you in here we're getting to the age where you're almost getting to be too young to remember. But after the tragedy of 9/11, a lot of people were putting 9/11 in their keywords. You go out to a sporting goods site and people had 9/11 in there. You don't do that. I mean, if it's CNN.com, sure, maybe you put something like that in there. All right? But these words that are in here should be reflective of exactly what it is the site's about. Questions on that? All right, I'm going to take this. Hopefully everybody's got it. And I'm going to make this one line for me. And I'm just going to copy it in. And I'll put it right beneath the one I've got. So let's see, there's the title. So that's the other one. So now they're there. Okay. All right, jumping back into the book then. Again, I'm not going to spend time going over what name and content and description are. They're in the book here. All right. So, how to code text elements is next. And again, headings and paragraphs. I have already mentioned this to you. I said this to you the other day, or earlier this period. H1 through H6 and P. I don't think we have a need to go over those. All right? Just so we have something in the body. Just so we have something. Let's go back to here. And in our body section, oops, I don't want to do that. In our body section, let's tab over, and I'm just going to put in an H1 tag, and I'm just going to put Travis Tritt in there. That's it. What's nice about doing that, and then I'm going to save, after I put in an H1 tag, like that, all right? And now when I go back and I open it up again with Live Server, okay, now at least there's something there. It's not an empty page. All right. Again, it's not that big a thing, but just so you've seen that. You could, if you wanted to, you could put your name in there. You could put down to be added later. All right. Sometimes you probably have all done this. You've gone out to a website and it'll say under construction. They might even have a picture, of people with a jackhammer or whatever. You could do that. All right. During the break, I'm going to close some of these. All right. They talk in here about a block element, and I just want to mention to you what a block element is. All right. All of these are block elements, which means they are guaranteed they will fill up as much of the line, by default, all of it. And then there'll be a blank line underneath them. You get that by default. All right. The opposite of a block level element is what's called an inline element. If you remember yesterday or Monday, whenever it was, I showed you B tags and strong tags and a few other things. Those are inline elements. They didn't just putting that in didn't put something a new line in before or after. All right. Now the next thing is special blocks of text. So I'm up to page 93 on here. All right. The pre-tag means basically formatted. Typically, you use the pre-tag if you're going to put actual computer code on a page of a website, so it looks more like it came out of a computer. So in other words, look on the screen, please. Can you see how the font in that code on these two lines looks a little different than the rest? Because that was put in pre. Not only that, when you pre, you can have blank spaces, hit the carriage return, etc. So there's things that you can do with that. All right. Now, in some websites, that's really important. In the majority, you don't use it very much, just so you know. Right? The next one that's there is block quotes. As it says, it can be used for quotations. Typically, what it does is something like this. It'll take the actual quote and it'll put some right justification on it. It'll move it over and tab it. All right? Will we use that? We'll see as we get going. Then there's an address thing that's not used that often, but it typically, when you use stuff in an address tag, it'll take it like it shows here with the 800 number and it'll italicize it. All right? So we just talked very quickly about the H tags and the P tags, which, as I mentioned, are block level elements. So what's discussed next are inline elements. All right, and this is darn thing. Let me close some of this stuff. Still isn't helping too much, is it? I mean, I don't have that much stuff open. The problem is, just so you know, the software that I use to record these lectures, it's a pig. It takes up as much memory as it possibly can, and then it takes a little more. All right, and it slows stuff down. All right, but I want to put that stuff out there as a record, so if somebody has to go back and look at it, they're able to do so. All right, so inline elements, and if you are following along, if you do have a PDF copy of the book, it's page 95. These, again, are all things that do not have a blank line before and after them. They're inline. All right? I'm not going to run through most of them, but if you look, subscript, superscript. They give an example in there where if I type this in, if I type in H2O, it'll look just like that, correct? But if I type in H sub 2 N sub O, now it'll be H2O. You see the difference? That's a subscript. Superscript will be up here, so if you want to show that you're raising something to a power, all right, etc., there's different uses for those if you're interested in something like that. Again, is it used much? It depends on the type of site you're writing. If you're writing a mathematical-oriented site, you might use a lot of this stuff. And there's a bunch of other ones. Again, I'm not going to read these to you. Some of these we've talked about a little bit. We talked about strong. All right? Some of the rest of them that are in there, you can just take a look. We're not going to use the majority of these. All right? I'm giving you the 80-20 rule, where I'm giving you the 20% of stuff you're going to use 80% of the time. Next, they talk about character entities. And believe it or not, we've talked about these. We've looked at them a little bit. I showed you that non-breaking space. So character entities, there's different ways that you can do these. If I want a sense character, I can either type in, that's not the right one, and I can type in ampersand cent, and it'll put a cent sign in there. The ones that you use most often, just so you know, to tell you, the ones you're probably going to use most often are these. I'll get rid of that in a second. This will give you a less than sign. That'll give you a greater than sign. That'll give you an ampersand. Those are the ones you use the majority of the time. You can go out to that W3 school site that I showed you. There are probably a good 100 character entities. All right? And you can take a look there, because if you ever have a weird character that you want to use and you're like, wow. Years ago I had a student, and he was really, really intelligent. I could tell from the first day he was bored in the class. And we were making a calculator, and just so you know this, if I want to say 3 divided by 2, that's how you do it using the computer. But he wanted to do this. Okay, because make it look like, you know, the way you learn in school. And I said, yeah, if you can find it on the keyboard. So he went out in there and found a character entity that brought that in. And that's how he used it. Great for him. All right. But I'm just saying, so there are uses for a lot of this stuff. But as I mentioned before, it depends upon how you're using it and the type of site you're working with. All right. But if you want more, again, they explain, they show you examples. Oh, that's the other one that you'll use quite a bit, is ampersand copy for the copyright symbol. All right. I don't know if you know this. This is something that kind of file it away in your head that you should care about, that if you're making a website and you're going to put it out on the internet, you really should put something in there like ampersand copyright and put your name on it. There have already been court cases for stuff like this before, where people have stolen other people's content. And by you saying that it's copyrighted with your name on it, that's giving you at least a minimum amount of protection. All right. That said also, and you're going to hear this again from me, don't go out to somebody else's website and steal their pictures or their content or anything else. If you think, well, that's a cool picture, then at a minimum, send them an email, get their permission. Email is considered written permission, and keep that email. But don't ever do that. I mean, I know people who have done that. You may or may not have heard of this. It was not that many years ago. There was literally a dry cleaners in Arizona. Guess what the guy's name was? McDonald. And he put golden arches up above his sign. It wasn't even 24 hours later he got a cease and desist order from McDonald's. All right. Okay. So next they talk about some core attributes here. Okay. We're going to talk in the next chapter about IDs, and we're going to talk about classes. The thing to realize is on a web page, when you have an ID, there should only be one of those on a page. And if that confuses you, think of an ID like a social security number. Because in an ideal world, at least, we'd all each have our own social security number. That's how it's supposed to work, right? Occasionally people steal somebody's or steal a dead person's or whatever. But I'm saying the way it's supposed to work. Classes, on the other hand, you can have one or more of those on the same page. All right? You'll see this more tomorrow. You know what title is. We already talked about Lang. All right? But they're starting to put stuff together here. So you see this it's on page 99. If you type in all that, you get this. Not perfect, but it's a start. It's looking a lot more like a web page. Okay? Structuring the content of the page. We'll go a few more minutes. We're going to take another break in just a bit. But notice these are new tags. When I say they're new tags, the tags that are right here, they are HTML5 tags. They're considered newer tags. You may or may not know what the word semantic means, but the idea with semantic is you can look at a header tag and know that it's a header. All right, you can look at a footer tag and know that it's a footer. Before these tags came around, people used something that we're going to talk about after the break, but they use what are called divs. And they would say div, and then they would say ID equal header. So instead of naming it header, it was called div with a name of header. And that was considered a more poor programming practice. So they made these tags. You don't have to memorize them. There's not even universal agreement on how these are used. All right, we will use them, and we will use them in a certain way. All right. This stuff in these semantic elements, this is all stuff that goes in the body section. So we are transitioning over to the body. What you oftentimes see inside of a header section is a nav. What's a nav? You know what a nav is. It's the navigation bar that's at the top. All right? So we're going to look at that in a little bit more detail after the break. Let me go up to here. There are other things that were added just for HTML5. Time, figure, caption. We're going to go into figures, and we're going to go into fig caption when we go over the chapter in the book that's on images. So you'll learn what all that's about. All right? Again, they are tags that are designed to make it easier for people to figure out what it is you're trying to do. All right, in a nutshell. Div and span. I did mention these the other day. You're going to become very intimately involved with divs and spans. A div means division, but a div is a block level element. So you can always be sure you'll have a blank line before your div and after your div. Spans are what are called inline elements. Right? Anybody ever seen a little kid story where it starts with once upon a time and the letter O is real big? You know what I'm talking about? All right. You'd do that with a span. You'd say, I only want to change this one letter and make it big and bold. All right. And they give some examples here. We're going to go into all of this stuff. Links, lists, and images. We're going to run through this again fairly quickly. Guess what? We started doing this. There's Travis Tritt. We've got an images. We called ours CSS. And we've got a JS. What they're saying is when you create a project, you should have some rhyme and reason over how in there everything is set up. All right? And that's what I'm trying to give you. Now, they talk about absolute and relative URLs. An absolute URL starts with HTTP or HTTPS. A relative URL says you're already in the site, so it's how you can move up a page, down a page, etc. Right? Links, you may or may not remember, but we looked at that yesterday. I linked to the Rankin website. I even showed you the blank that we can add in there. Underscore blank, target equals underscore blank. All right, we're going to go, believe me, we're going to go into links in a lot more depth and breadth of coverage. Lists, the key thing to tell you, you don't have to do this because I'm going to remove it, but I want to show you something. So you don't have to type any of this in. I'm going to remove it. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say OL. OL means ordered list. All right, and I'm going to put in here ordered lists and unordered lists are filled up with what are called list items, LIs. So I'm going to put in here LI, and I'll just put in here, I don't know, Jeff S., Charles C. for Mr. Corrigan, and we'll put in one more, Evan G. for Mr. Gudmested. So I've got that in there. I'm going to remove this again, but just so you see it. So I'm going to come in here again, tell it to open it with live server. Is that obvious what that did? It made an ordered list. Ordered means it has some kind of order to it. All right. Now, you can change this. You can have either numbers, Roman numerals, uppercase, Roman numerals, lowercase, alphabetic letters, uppercase, alphabetic letters, lowercase. We'll get into that in a later chapter, but just so you see it. If I go back into my site, I go back to the site, and I change this from OL to UL. Now it's an unordered list. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to go back again. You see the difference. When you do these, you can have either, this is called a disk. There actually is one called a circle, but it's a circle that's not colored in. There's a square. I believe that's all of them, but you can also add your own. All right, you may or may not have even realized this. They added their own. See that? They added the stars. Not hard to do. All right, you have to find what you want, and then you have to basically add it. All right. So if you want more than I just gave you, they show you a UL, they show you an OL. Both of them take LIs. So there is an unordered list, there is an ordered list. People always say, well, when do I use an ordered list? Well, if you were giving somebody a recipe, for example. If they had to do things in a certain order, you'd want it to be an ordered list. If you didn't care, if it was a list of, say, family members and there's no rhyme or reason to the order, you'd put it in an unordered list. All right? So again, it should always be dictated based on the circumstance and what you're trying to do with it. Yeah. All right. Images, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I brought an image into the document. Notice one thing I didn't talk about yesterday is height and width. All right? Almost always, once we get into talking about CSS, which starts again in the next chapter, you don't ever put height and width into an image tag. Because why? What does height and width do? Aren't those aesthetics? How tall are you? How wide are you? That belongs in CSS. You can put them in here. You can also skew things. So if I've got a 100 by 100 pixel image, I can put in there height equals 300, width equal 500, and it might look real pulled out of shape, but you can do that. I also showed you how you could go in yesterday into Paint and change the resolution. You can do that too. All right? Always put a source tag in there. Always put an alt tag in there. Okay? Finally, this is how the chapter ends. It's a structured web page. This is the page they built right here. Now, it's a little bit misleading because they call this navigation. No, it's not. But that's the way they do it in here because they haven't talked about it in enough depth and breadth of coverage yet. All right? So, the reason I'm telling you that is right here on page 117, they show you all the code that was put in there. I'm not going to make you do that. All right? But remember, if you're struggling with any of this stuff, take a look at what's in there and see if it makes sense. If you go, well, you didn't really talk about this, then ask in class. I don't try to miss anything or mislead you in any way, but I do miss things occasionally. I like to think I'm at least semi-human. All right, and like I said, I occasionally forget to do something. All right, it is 10:09. Let's come back at 10:20, please. All right, I'm going to try to see if I can figure out yours right now. It worked yesterday?
Yeah, it worked yesterday.
Huh.
I can go back to it. Maybe I can just wait it.
Let's see. Figure, yeah. User settings, yeah. Okay, let's do this. Click File in your menu.
Okay.
Is there a Preferences underneath there?
Yeah.
Choose Preferences. Is there a Settings underneath there?
Yeah.
All right. Look there. Do you have a line that's similar to something like this? It won't be exactly like that, but do you have one that says Emmet.included languages? You might have to look around for it. And if you can't find it, I don't think it would hurt anything. I would go down to the very bottom and literally put in what's right here if you don't find it. What's in there in the blue, exactly as it is. Now, what I'm telling you, just so you know, if it is in there, you might be overwriting what's in there right now. So you might have to go in and change it later, okay? But otherwise, try putting that in, save it, and after you do, we'll see if it works then. It's got to be, I would think, a user settings type of thing. that's always. See, what that should do then is when you put in, when you put that in, that's the little thing that showed on the side like we did, yours wasn't showing. I don't think you did anything. I think that something goofy happened. I don't think you did anything at all. There's nothing you could have put in your file that would have screwed that up. Yep. Oh, wait a minute. It says it's a text document. Okay, do this. Go back into Visual Studio Code. Alright. Are you in the Travis Trick folder?
Yeah.
Click on it. Oh, this is the one you did yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the one. So click in there. Showing the computer, that's what I don't understand. I'll tell you what. Click File and choose Close Folder. I'll get rid of all. So you can save it if you want. It's not shouldn't have it. Now, close this. Just totally close it. Now, okay, you're in Travis Trick. All right. Remove this file. You might have to click on it first to highlight. It just teaches you. Then do it. All right. Now, right mouse click. Choose New. The very bottom. Choose Text Document. Now, highlight. See, if yours isn't showing, that's the problem. Okay. All right. Okay, same problem that Angie had before. Let's see. Of course, I probably removed that, but that's okay. We'll find it again. All right. So you know how to get the File Explorer on your computer? Go to File Explorer. See, when you created that file, it saved it. You probably didn't put it into double quotes like I showed you, which is okay. But instead of saving it as index.html, it saved it as index.html.text. That's why the semicolon, why the exclamation point didn't work. So, under File Explorer, click the View tab. In the View tab, there should be, as it says, there should be a box next to File Name Extensions. And in there should be a thing that says Hidden Items. You want to make sure that's checked. That will show anything that's hidden. So click on View Ribbon. File Name Extensions. Click View again. Now, uncheck that. Do one more time. Now, click over here on the actual word. Angie, how did you get your file name extension thing? Can you come over here and show Gabriel?
Yeah.
Did you have to check this? Oh, there you go. I didn't see it. Hopefully that fixes it. Now, go back to your Travis Trick folder. And remove that document right there. Again, right mouse click, choose New, the text document down to the bottom of the document. Now make sure the whole thing is highlighted. Now put in here, put in index.html. I want to see what else it says. Hit enter. Say yes. There, you changed your extension. It is an HTML file. Now go back into code. In fact, don't even do that. Click the up arrow right here. Right mouse click on your Travis Print folder. Choose open with code. Now you should have in there index.html. Should be in there. There it is. Bring that up. Now put in your exclamation point and hit tab, and it should work.
There we go. I'll go in after school and I'll do that.
Well, I can put it up here. It's not like you missed a whole heck of a lot. So you've got all this. What we added was, there's the first meta tag. You can put that in if you want to.
Idea. For your meta tag and keywords, put coronavirus. And get more people. More relevant than surgery.
Well, the chapter just going to be fine. So I will talk to them after class. Let me know when you have that. I'll move this down a bit.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if you downloaded that or not, that file that we did from out there. If you did, then you should be able to do this exactly like this. So. Probably have the title tag in already, but again, you can change that. So.
I'll bring up the
Save the file and crash it. I know it's very, I don't know, maybe we should have used a little bigger one. I don't know.
You still got all the money left out.
All right. And that's all you best, because we're not gonna, that, I didn't want you to put that in anyway. Down here, don't put in this stuff. The next thing that we're going to do, just so you know this, is we're going to start trying to figure out how we want to lay this thing out using some of those semantic elements. All right? So by the time we get done with this, and I'll tell you what, let me, in just a second, as soon as you're done, I'm going to stop this because I was taping, and of course I taped right through the break. But, and I'll start it back up again. By the end of the period today, we will actually have a full web page. See what I'm saying? All right, that's my goal here. And I want to do that and ideally get that done by no later than 11:30. Okay? And if we can do it by earlier than that, great. And I've got the Chapter 3 test for you again to try to take a look at, and then we'll go over it as a class. All right? And then tomorrow we'll do the same kind of thing with Chapter 4. After tomorrow, the page that we create will look a little nicer. But as of right now, like I said, don't let that worry you as far as how it looks or anything like that, please. Let's see. Yeah, I did.